Hi, all. Welcome to the second State of the Market with the Bodine team. We are going to be looking at what happened in the month of August. Let's get started here. How are you doing, guys? Damon?
Oh, doing well, Ree. It's a good day. Happy Friday. Excited for a good weekend. It's definitely one of those days. I mean, we're recording this on Friday, September 11th, which is always one of those days. It's very heavy in my mind. But yeah, doing well.
Awesome. What about you, O'Brien?
Hanging in there. Very excited to be getting out and about more now that the city is starting to feel like it's alive again. Enjoying all the cafe seats in the street and music in the parks, et cetera, et cetera.
Awesome. Yeah, I've definitely noticed, more and more people are getting out there and seemingly social distancing enough that it's bearable. So that's exciting. But yeah, guys, let's talk about the real estate market and what's happened since last month.
Right.
Last month, we were talking about what had happened in the month of July, and now we're going to be looking at what happened in August. Damon, do you want to talk a little bit about the absorption rates and contract sign and just give us some insight there?
Sure. So we usually kind of break this into three categories here. The under $1 million category, the $1 to $2 million category, and the above $2 million category. So just kind of going through some statistics in Brooklyn, the overall contract signed, we're seeing 715 contracts out of 5,182 total properties available on the market, which gives us the absorption rate of about 13.8%. And for anyone who's kind of here, hasn't listened to our call before, the absorption rate basically sort of is a formula used to talk about how long it would take for all the inventory on the market to absorb if there were no new listings. So we're absorbing, at our current pace, we're absorbing about 700 contracts overall in Brooklyn a month. So that gets us to our 13.8% number. But within that number, there's a few things to kind of look at. The under 1 million market, which in New York, a lot of times the entry level price point, it's pretty strong right now. We saw 427 of those 715 contracts done in August out of 2,730 total listings, which gave us an absorption rate of 15.64%, or about 6.39 months of total inventory in the market. Once you got to the $1 to $2 million range, we saw 223 contracts on there out of 1,600. Absorption rate of 13.94%, or 7.17 months of inventory. And in the $2 million plus Brooklyn market, which is kind of more of the luxury market, we saw 64 total contracts signed out of 868 total listings. So that's an absorption rate of about 7.37%, and a little over 13.56 months of total inventory on the market.
It's a lot to take in for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of see from this, right, that it hasn't changed that much from last month. The under $1 million market.
I mean, especially just like overall contracts signed last month, we were at 12.62% absorption rate for all of Brooklyn. And, this month we have a little bit more inventory, and also a little bit more in terms of contract signed, and it's like 13.8. So
and I think the big differences we're seeing actually more contracts get signed in the under 1 million and the 1 to 2 million range. Those absorption rates look to be going up, but the over $2 million range is seemingly a little bit softer. So, that's sort of dragging down the overall kind of the overall absorption rate of the entire, of all price points, right?
For sure. Yeah, it's pretty evident that, the above $2 million mark, really the only properties that are moving have, I think almost all of them have had some level of a price reduction prior to going into contract. And it seems to be that over that threshold, those properties are seemingly more, either that maybe they're more unique, maybe they have certain features that the typical townhouse doesn't have. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say that's accurate.
Yeah. Um, and then I guess we can move on to a little bit about like mortgage rates. What do you think?
Sure.
Awesome. Orion, do you want to touch base on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of the current trend is holding of record-breaking low mortgage rates. Right now we're seeing 30-year fixed conforming loans right around 2.875, and jumbo's right at 3%. Jumbo 10-1 arms at 2.5%. So if you're if you've been waiting for an opportunity to jump in the market and get a low monthly payment, this is a rare time in history.
Yeah. One of the things I saw, actually, I did see the rates trickling up a little bit in the last week. So, and I saw some articles about possibly rates it looked like they'd bottomed out according to like Freddie Mac articles and things like that. So we'll see where the rest of the year goes. But just don't know. Going to be hard to time the market and get the best deal, but we're still at historic lows, right? So
Yeah, I think that's one of the trickier things that, we see with our clients who are looking to buy properties or even sell their own, is that everyone's always trying to time the market. And I think everyone thinks that they know like the secret sauce and they're just waiting for that moment. And, I don't really think there really is ever that like perfect moment that you can really capture. A lot of that is luck and just timing in your own situation, but I do think it is pretty interesting that the interest rates did go down a little bit since our last video, right? Because we were previously at around 3.25%. So this might actually be the magical moment to really move forward.
I saw a couple of days actually where they were at, 30-year was at 2.65 for like a couple of days, and now it's trended up to 2.875, right? But yeah, let's see where we land. But I would just say pragmatically, nothing gold stays forever, right? And
Definitely.
if anyone in this call could time the market, we would have all retired a long time ago, right? So
yeah, it's hard enough to time the stock market, and that's something that you can pull a trigger on and make a trade in a minute. Any deal that's going to take 60 to 90 days, it's that much harder to try to find that perfect moment. When I bought when I could, I bought the second that I could.
Well, yeah, it's just like there's just so many advantages to being a homeowner, from the fixed debt to the tax write-off to the tax advantages to the rental income in your case, right? It's a no-brainer, right? So,
and once again, with the amount of money being printed right now, I would like to think that real estate is among the best hedges you can have against inflation. Holding debt at a fixed interest rate, and holding an asset like real estate. That is rock solid value.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, all right, we've talked about the sales market. Now, maybe we should jump into the rental market a little bit because, as we all know, especially when you're looking at even a condo or a co-op in multifamilies, I'm sure everyone has considered what their property would rent for, and those options should they need to either move out or have to re-rent their current rental apartments. So we were looking just like specifically in Bushwick recently, and just the amount of inventory in one neighborhood was astounding. I think there were, probably between 2 and 3 bed units. It was close to, let me see, close to 800, no, almost 900 units that were available on the market just in one neighborhood. So to look at the inventory across the board for all of Brooklyn, I'm sure that's pretty high up there. And especially if you have one of those, what they call commodity apartments, where, it's not like a loft, it's not really, super special. It doesn't really have like that prime outdoor space. It's getting more and more difficult to rent them at these sort of aspirational prices. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, the trend has continued through the summer of rising inventory levels. Some of our indicators are lagging a little bit, but I've seen, numbers as high as 22,000 units on the market in Brooklyn. With that amount of inventory, prices have continued to decline. Luckily, Brooklyn has been much more stable than Manhattan throughout this summer and throughout the COVID experience. Last month, we saw about 2.34% decline in rents across Brooklyn. I mean, you compare that to some of the 10, 20, 30% declines that you're seeing in Manhattan. I'm happy to be in Brooklyn. I'm happy to own in Brooklyn, and I'm happy to be working in Brooklyn.
For sure. I mean, I'm just looking now, like as of today, just in Brooklyn, no defining factors, there are 10,455 units just on Street Easy. So that doesn't count the listings that are just not listed yet. Doesn't count like all those boutique listing sites and what have you. So if you can imagine, that's a lot of inventory to take up, especially with construction resuming and likely a decent amount of new development rental units that are expected to come to the market in the next 6 months or so.
Right. So what is moving in the rental market then?
I mean, larger apartments have been moving. Anything with outdoor space has been getting a lot more attention than, some of the, like Randa was saying, those commodity, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. This trend of the exodus towards the suburbs has helped boost the Brooklyn market, since for a lot of Manhattanites, Brooklyn is a type of suburb.
Sure.
So we're seeing people leaving behind their small Manhattan apartments for something with more space and a little bit more affordable.
Yeah, and I think also it's that private aspect of having anything that's private and not shared by other units in the building are definitely more prime than others. And like we just met with someone who had the garden unit and the upper unit had like a shared yard, and there's like a battle to take either use or take the space whenever they want to. And so it's definitely an indicator that people are more inclined to go for those units over no outdoor space, for sure. Especially the amenity buildings, like those amenity buildings, they look nice and they have great amenities that you could use throughout the year. But right now, most of those, perks are not afforded to you because they're closed down due to the city regulations. So I can see people moving more so towards like the 2 and 3 family, living in one of those 2 and 3 family townhouses where you don't really have to interact with so many people.
Yeah, I've even worked with some people on the rental side who were exclusively looking for properties with private entrances. So they're not interested in any kind of shared lobby. So, with people like that, you're looking at townhouses exclusively.
Yeah. So Damon, what do you think's going to come next? Do you have any sort of crystal ball thoughts on where you think Brooklyn or like just the New York City market is heading in the next few months? I mean, there's so many determining factors that are sort of kind of out of our hands, like the upcoming election, various local elections, school resuming, all of that. What do you think?
Well, and there's a lot of things going on, right? I tend to be more pragmatic, so when I see like articles saying like New York City is dead and all those things, I think that's a lot of like hyperbole, to be honest with you. I think that I think it's weird because in New York, like people want something to happen so bad. They want like they live for the moment so badly that they're like, oh my God, see this article, see this is what I've been telling you guys, da 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 da, right? And
Exactly.
I think that inevitably it's there's two kind of stories going on in housing simultaneously right now. On the national level, housing is unbelievably hot right now. There are markets, there are like markets like Denver and Seattle and Chicago and things like that, where the days on market is like under 15 some weeks, which is
I
insane.
mean, I've even heard that. I recently talked to some family back in Buffalo, New York, and I have to tell you, I don't think many people would think, hey, you know what, I should move to Buffalo. But they've actually seen a huge increase in demand, and I would say, they're not really a market that appreciates very quickly.
Yeah.
But because of that increased demand of having that extra outdoor space, just like a larger footprint of a home, they've actually seen properties just flying off the shelf there more so than they have previously. So that's interesting to go all the way to Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean it's everywhere, except honestly for the most part, except New York City and San Francisco, it's the story is multiple bids right now. It's like insane competition on every property. You have to like literally the second something comes in the market, you have to go see it like within 24 hours kind of thing. It's so once you have that, to me, like I feel better about national trends. Local trends to me will shift, right? But I look at things like, okay, the housing market is strong. There's a bunch of articles about Airbnb this week, and Airbnb bookings on the rise again, right? People are starting to kind of get out, things like that. And
Especially with international travel being curtailed,
yeah.
Airbnb's been killing it. I have friends who are in that business and they're fully booked.
I mean, well, yeah. I mean, maybe you wanted to go to Asia this year, but instead you went to Alabama, right? It's like you find a way, right?
The Southeast Asia of the United States.
Exactly. And there's also like this. There's this trend. I read this article on NPR the other day about Zoom towns and like the making of two Americas. But I don't know. Like I feel like that's like kind of that's a response to the moment, right? And I feel like a lot of people, and especially I know that have like bought and upstate and things like that, they started wanting to have a win this year and they kind of wanted their vacation home, right? So they're taking advantage of the mortgage rates. But I don't think all of a sudden people are going to, for the next 20 years, just start working in like these remote towns, right? Because they'll just get bored. I mean, this is why people live in New York City and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Miami and all these places, because they're world-class cities, and they have, like, and the three of us could be going out to dinner and we have, 500 different options we could go to in like, a couple mile radius, right? Where if we were in a quote unquote Zoom town, it might be 5, right? So I don't know. I think that with that said, look, I don't have a crystal ball for New York, but I do think that there may be a little bit of pain this year, mainly because expectations between buyers and sellers are very far apart right now. We definitely have properties where, you know, we're getting offers 20% under the asking price and things like that. And I would say we have a lot of vultures in the market right now that are just trying to, you know, and I'm not mad at them, right? But I think that they're not necessarily, when you actually look at like the closing data and prices and things like that, you're not seeing that massive decline, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Just because there's this perception that the New York market is distressed, it doesn't mean that your typical seller is in distress.
Exactly.
So these lowball offers aren't going to move someone who can afford to wait. It's not a fire sale.
Exactly.
Sure.
Especially because you have, like, let's say, you know, you have all these, you know, mortgage holders and forbearance and things like that. And by all accounts, it looks like the US government is going to keep forbearance as long as they need to, right? Like, I don't think they're just going to go and belly up and let people go into foreclosure and things like that this time around.
No.
I think everybody,
they learned their lesson.
So like, you're not going to have this massive influx of distressed inventory, and you're not and the other thing is, like, apartments are still getting rented. So even if you own investment property, it's like, yes, you might take a temporary bath of a couple $100 on some of your rentals, but, you know, it comes down to pricing, right? You know, we're going to have a call after this, right? And we'll talk to the owner about pricing and be like, look, this is the reality right now, right? But in the grand scheme of you holding this building for 10, 20, 30 years, this is a small dip. This is not, I don't think this is the new normal, you know, so.
And that's why people love New York. I mean, ultimately there's always demand. Any apartment in the city can be rented overnight. It's just a matter of pricing.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I think pricing is the name of the game for 2020, and being smart about that, and really just putting yourself in the best position to win, whether that's selling or renting, you know.
Yeah, and just being mindful of, like, how you interpret advice, right? And like news and things like that, because God knows, like, this year above all years that I have been alive on this earth, the sensationalism and, like, news and journalism right now, like, not even like political stuff, or like, forget all that. I'm just talking about normal everyday articles. It's like everything is written from a clickbait kind of perspective now. And I think that really, really, really distorts people's view of reality, you know?
I mean, fear sells. So that's what people write. And I mean, New York is the capital of the world. Everyone has an opinion about New York. So it feels like the whole internet is taking turns trying to dunk on the city. But
you know, like, ask us about our ask versus close sheets, and, like, let's look at the market dynamics and time of market and things like that, and how, you know, how properties are moving through the cycle, and how some properties are, you know, we're still seeing multiple bids in some categories, you know, like we saw multiple bids.
Exactly.
I saw a property in Park Slope, a townhouse that traded $250,000 over the asking price last week, right? So, you know,
you're also seeing like $6 million sales, like properties in Park Slope go into contract. Like, there was a recent one this week. This was $6 million.
Yeah. And I think, you know, that's in that world, you know, it could be shaken up if there's more overbuilding and things like that. You know, that has happened in New York in the past. We had a inventory challenge in the early 2000s here, but I don't know. I think people have more data. You know, investors have more data at their arsenal now. Banks have, you know, they have better decision-making capabilities, things like that. So, you know, thankfully, like, in the history of United States real estate, like, in our country, we've made a lot of mistakes, you know. So we're always, but hopefully we've corrected from those, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Definitely. Well, I guess I'll just ask, you know, are there any, you know, final thoughts here from the team? Like, anything you want to share, you know, before we get off here?
No, I feel pretty good.
They're like, is there anything, like, if there's, you know, if there's one thing that you would tell your, you know, future someone who's considering selling their home or renting out their unit, whatever the case is, or even buying, like, what's that one piece of advice that you would share with them?
My advice would be try to think pragmatically and be less emotionally connected to the outcome, right? And if you think pragmatically, you're going to make better decisions, and inevitably that's going to help your wallet and financial security far more than just flying off the handle and just, you know, getting emotionally connected with the process.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, I would say now more than ever, as there's more competition, there's more inventory out there. You know, if you're going to be listing a property, you know, make sure you know who you're listing it with, and make sure you know what their marketing plan is going to be, and that they're going to really represent it in the best light, and, you know, put in the work to move it. Because, you know, when there's 10,000 other apartments on the market, just putting up a few cell phone pictures and a 2-line description is not gonna do the job.
Each other anymore. So those days are dead, and thank God those days are dead, because no owner should be, no property should be represented in a city as great as New York with a flip phone video or photo, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, I'm sure there's a huge draw to using the broker who's not going to pay for the professional photos and what have you, you know, because they might give you a discount or what have you. But you also may be sitting on a vacant apartment for much longer than that discount is worth, right?
absolutely. It's
But yeah, and I think for me, like, the one thing that I would say is, you know, if you're considering listing, or if you're considering buying, start thinking about it now. You know, even if it's something that doesn't feel like it's more immediate for you, think about it now. Really get educated about, you know, what your options are, whether that's your financing options, whether that's looking at, you know, your debt to income ratio, and sort of kind of your backup plan, you know, should things change with your situation economically, you know, financially, however you want to say it. And what that looks like, you know, take the time to really understand the financial implications of your next steps and have fun with it, you know?
all right. Love that.
I guess that's it.
Hey guys. All right.
Another one in the books.
In the can.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for coming on today. And we look forward to chatting with you all next month. I think our goal next month is to try and have, you know, our typical absorption rate, contract signed, all of that update, but also we'd love to hear from you. So for all of you guys out there that have questions, who have been considering what should I do next, send us a note. You know, we'd be happy to discuss it in our next video.
And Rihanna, where can they find you?
They can find me. You can email me at rihanna.bodine@corcoran.com, or give me a call, 917-654-1829. You can also go to rihannabodine.com.
Awesome.
It's perfect.
All right.
What about you, Ryan?
Where can they find you?
Orion, ORION.Talley, TALLEY, @corcoran.com. Feel free to give me a call at 929-457-0070. Or just meet me at Maria Hernandez Park in Bushwick. We'll have a picnic and chat.
Yeah.
Love it. All right.
You can also message us at the Bodine team at Instagram and on Facebook.
Rock on, guys. All right. Well.
All right. Until next month, be safe, be well. See you later.